Good morning, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Green.
And I'm Vladimir Dutte. Thanks so much for joining us. President Trump lashing out against leaders of the FBI and the Justice Department this morning ahead of the expected release of a secret memo about the Russia investigation. He tweeted this morning: the top leadership and investigators of the FBI and the Justice Department have politicized the sacred investigative process in favor of Democrats and against Republicans. He added, rank and file are great people. He went on to write that Hillary Clinton and Democrats paid for the opposition research firm GPS Fusion to create the so-called Trump dossier and used it to get a court's approval to spy on the Trump team.
The president spoke out before an expected decision to allow the release of the classified memo produced by the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. It claims the FBI abused surveillance during its investigation of possible ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. The White House plans to approve the release despite FBI Director Christopher Wray's objections. He reportedly threatened to resign over the issue. The Bureau has grave concerns about the memo's accuracy and implications for the intelligence community. Democrats say it was written to undermine the Russia investigation.
For more on the memo and the president's tweets, let's get right to Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett on the North Lawn. Major, let's start with these tweets. Remind our viewers again. The President of the United States just yesterday said, "We love our law enforcement." The President appointed FBI Director Wray, Deputy Director Rod Rosenstein, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. All of them are Republicans. He picked them. How can he argue that they're working in favor of the Democrats?
Well, essentially what that tweet is, Anne-Marie and Vlad, is the cliff notes of the memo. I mean, that's essentially what the president has done. He's taken an allegation that is in this memo, soon to be released, and put it in a tweet. I mean, this is the hand-in-glove relationship between the president and Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, author of this memo. And to your point, Vlad, everyone you just mentioned, the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and the FBI Director Christopher Wray, all appointed by President Trump. Therefore, if he is impugning their integrity, he's impugning the integrity of people he picked for those leadership positions. The implication of that tweet, and because it is essentially a Cliff Notes version of the Nunes memo, is that is impugning the reputation and the actions of the other previous leadership of the FBI and the Justice Department in the Obama administration. And the president either didn't want to find the words to express it that specifically or just decided not to. But in essence, this idea that the president was weighing or struggling with the idea that this memo should be cleared for release by the House Intelligence Committee is completely refuted by everything he's done this week, saying after the State of the Union, 100% I'm going to release it. And letting many people here know in the White House that even before a thorough review of it himself, he intended to release it. The other thing we've learned is those who I've talked to who have looked at the memo find it interesting, some elements of it compelling, but nowhere near as explosive as has been described on television, where the president has been tracking conversation about this memo for the better part of 2.5 weeks.
In fact, if you believe the reporting from the Washington Post, his own chief of staff didn't really believe that it would be a threat in terms of security, but really didn't think it was going to be all that interesting in the way that it's being sold to us. But I want to ask you about something else, about these rumors about Director May and whether or not he would resign. Ever since he sort of took that remarkable step of publicly pleading with the White House not to release this memo, these rumors have started to swirl. And now we have this morning's Twitter tweet where the president is out and out blaming the leadership of the FBI for politicizing this whole issue. So what are you hearing about whether or not he would step down? Because, you know, those rumors started when we were just talking about the release of a memo. Now we're talking about a tweet, and we've seen this before where the president takes aim at one of his people and sort of keeps nudging that person along until, hey, maybe sometimes they step down. So what are you hearing about the rumors, and do you think we'll hear more from the FBI once and if it looks like this memo is released?
So let's take those questions in reverse order.
All right.
The FBI is in all likelihood going to issue some sort of rebuttal once this memo is released, and we expect the memo to be sent back from the White House to the House Intelligence Committee, Republican staff, and say, all right, we have no objection. There may or may not be redactions. I've been told all week that some redactions of that memo were agreed upon. But a senior official traveling with reporters on Air Force One yesterday, coming back from West Virginia, said they did not expect any redactions. Either way, redacted or not, that memo will go back to the House Intelligence Committee Republicans. They'll release it. And then, in all likelihood, the FBI will issue some sort of rebuttal. There will also, in all likelihood, be a Democratic memo offering a counter-narrative about the underlying surveillance being questioned in that Republican Intelligence Committee memo. As to FBI Director Wray, he came here on Monday and made an in-person plea to the Chief of Staff, John Kelly. I have real deep concerns about this memo. I want them to be heard. I want them to be addressed. I'm told that they were heard and they were addressed. We'll see when this memo comes out if any of those redactions actually occurred. And if they did, that would at least indicate the White House was, at some level, sensitive to and responsive to objections raised by the FBI director, though not enough to prevent the release of the memo in its entirety, which was Director Wray's original request. Would he resign? Would he quit over this? Those close to him tell us that he's not going to resign, and he didn't specifically threaten to quit, but he did make his objections strongly known. And as I've covered this administration, and I've interacted with people who have either been the target of presidential tweets or considered whether or not the better part of valor is to resign or to stay, many decide to stay, to fight on behalf of their institution, fight on behalf of what they believe in, and push back against the president, because they've learned, and many have learned, that's how you, in part, earn the president's respect. He brushes you back, you push back, and the confrontations continue. That's not uncommon in politics, I will point out. What is uncommon is that they, and the Trump administration, tend to play out publicly, not privately. And that is the very big and stark difference in this administration.
Major, what are you hearing from your sources within the White House about the tussle as to whether or not the president should release this? Because there could be some political blowback if this memo turns out to be a dud. In other words, the president is taking cues from the memo. According to other reports, he's taking cues from hosts at Fox News as to what to do. Is there an internal struggle? I guess the president is going to release. That's the reporting that you have. But is there a struggle within the White House? Because there could be some blowback.
There could be some blowback, but the situation is essentially too far gone. The president doesn't ever like to appear weak. And his number one, or one of his top considerations in this matter, now that this memo has become such an item, if you will, in social media, some elements of social media, and on some cable networks, that if he doesn't authorize its release, and remember, the White House can't officially release it. It sends it back to the House Intelligence Committee with its own either redactions or its clearance, saying it's okay to do with it what you will. That way the White House can say, well, we really didn't release it. We just didn't object. But at the same token, and by the same measure, this has developed a kind of an atmospheric around it that those who are supportive of the president desperately want this memo out there. And if it is a dud, if it does have a few interesting components, but nowhere near as compelling or sensational as some have alleged, then the president's going to have to deal with that. But he would rather deal with that than the accusation that he buckled under pressure and that he didn't stand up on behalf of trying to find out what exactly did or did not occur in the 2016 campaign in terms of surveillance and some people attached to his campaign.
Major Garrett, I know we will be talking to you more about this. The memo, it's been reported, will be released later on today, and maybe we'll be tapping into your great wealth of knowledge later on today. Thank you so much.
You got it.